and welcome to the Gothic Unicorn. Today I'm going to be making something over, which I know sounds weird, but I don't know quite how else to describe it. Now, the item in question is this little house. Now, it opens on the front and it came with some little plasticky things called Zomlings in it. Now, the date on the bottom is actually 2013, but we picked it up because somebody liked the look of it. Well, I like the look of the little house and somebody was intrigued by what was inside, so we bought it and I now get to make over this little house. Now, the thing that struck me is it kind of reminded me of Zero's doghouse in Nightmare Before Christmas, and I thought, I could possibly do that and use it in some way to decorate the doll's house. So that's what I'm going to try and do. I'm going to try and make this over, and we'll see if we can actually incorporate it into our scheme. Got to be a way, hasn't there? I went and I spray painted the little house and now it's black. The good thing about painting it black is I can now see all the details. So if I want to focus on the little details, I can do that now. I've got to decide how I'm going to paint it. Definitely needs painting. I don't want to leave it as it is. Yeah, that's where we're at the moment. I think I'm going to go for maybe something a little bit multicoloured on the roof. So I may go over the roof with a single colour and then pick out certain other of the shingles in different colours. Now, I don't know if I will just use something like a grey. Again, I'm going to have to put some paint on the siding and then paint the little bits over the top. I'm probably not going to paint the Zomlings sign on the back. I may cover that up with something. But I've got a vent on the back and I've got the two windows and the door, all of which are going to need a bit of decoration. And then I need to find something to make a little base for it to go on, so I can give it a little bit more of a presence. Now, I've got some this is cereal box material that I have sort of two layers together. It's a bit that's left over from something I've done before, and as you can see, even that, if I just put that on there and round off the edges, I could probably do something with that, because I think if I'm going to do it, I'm going to put the back pretty much at the back and leave that quite straight, and then add the detail at the front or the sides. I think that's what I'm going to do. But obviously, before I can stick a base onto it, I need to get painting. So I think that's what I'm going to do next. Get the paints out and figure this one out. For the first lot of colour, I've gone with a medium sort of grey on the roof. That needs more work. And then I've also put some purple onto the siding. Now, what I do like is how much the details are showing up already, even with the bits that I haven't painted just in black. It looks so much better. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put some more grey on the roof and then start on some individual colours on the shingles. Probably going to use a couple more shades of grey, maybe a bit of black, maybe even some white. and perhaps even the purple off there, just to give it a bit of something. I'm not sure if I'm going to put another coat on the siding. I quite like it as it is. It's not perfect. I do need to work on something to cover up the textured bit on the back, and I need to figure out colour I'm doing the other details. Obviously I've got some green to do around the bottom, but yeah, back to the paintbrush. I put a second coat on the roof and it isn't drying very quickly, simply because it's really wet and warm, so it's rather humid here today, and it's just taking a bit longer. That and that grey paint seems to take longer to dry than some of my better paints. While I was thinking, I did a bit of green on the grass around the bottom, because that was quite obvious. It's supposed to be grass growing up the side of the building, so I did it. And at that point I realised that these bits of trim on the corners actually resemble bones. They've got little bumpy bits at the top. So I've gone over them with a sort of bone colour, and I've also put the same colour onto the little skulls on front and back. The other thing I've done, and I'm going to turn this very, very carefully, is I've started putting some red paint on the door. Now the red I've chosen is a not very bright red that's called apple red. I picked it up because it was in clearance, and it looks okay when I've painted it on some white paper. Obviously I don't know how it's going to turn out on the black, but I think it's going to work pretty well with the purple. So I'm going to put some more of that on there. I will do the little door handle, which is also a bone, in my bone colour shortly, once I've done the red, so I haven't got to keep touching it up. And then I'm going to do the trim on the windows, the door, and probably the downpipe, the downspout for the guttering, with some metallic black to just keep a bit of shine on some of it. I'm also going to put a very pale grey, which I haven't actually got on my desk at the moment, on the glass, just to lighten it up a bit. And I may just leave the spider as is, although I might add some really bright red so that it looks like it's got bright red eyes shining at you. I think I'm going to leave the little vent at the back, and as for the trim on the rest of the house, that may be done in the metallic black. So it's sort of coming together. I like how it's looking, and I'm looking forward to getting the painting done and being able to do a little bit of a base for it. What I'm thinking with this is, I'm thinking I want to do it of a size so that it will fit on the front of my doll's house if I want to use it as a doll's house decoration, or that it's standalone enough that if I decide I want to put it out as a decoration in the real house, it won't look too out of place. It's a reasonable enough size that I could put it on one of the shelves in our living room, and it wouldn't be completely lost, but we shall see. I think I am about done with painting the actual house. I've added a bit of black to the bits I was going to do, a bit of the very pale grey to the windows, and of course the colours to the roof, which I think looks okay. I think I'm going to put a coat of Mod Podge over it, just to protect the paint. And yeah, I don't know what still don't know what I'm going to cover the back of that up with. It's not too noticeable now. I could put it so it doesn't show if I don't come up with anything, but I could put something over there at a later point in time. I may actually make some little tiny bunting and sort of disguise it with that, but we shall see. Now for the base, which is obviously where I've got to go once I've done this, I've actually started on that so that I can work on it whilst the Mod Podge is drying on this. And I took my cereal box material, which has been doubled up, and I cut a piece that was slightly bigger than the house. And I've stuck that onto another piece, again double thickness, that I'm again going to trim off so it's more rounded. The main reason for doing this is it's going to give me a bit of a step effect at the front. So if I want to, I can actually make it look like there's an actual step up to it. You know, I can paint on the second piece I've stuck to, I can paint that a bit grey, paint that grey and make it look like there's a step up to the house. It's not going to be much of a step, but it's going to be enough. And then when I've cut this down, I'm still waiting for it to dry properly, I will put it onto another 2-layer piece, which will be my actual base. And that is what I'm going to measure so that it will fit on the front of the doll's house. At the moment, I think it's going to be somewhere around about the same depth as that. And obviously I've got a little bit more room on the width if I need it. But I'll show you that shortly. The house has been Mod Podged and I've made a start on the landscaping. Now, I covered the base once I had got my 3 layers with a bit of air dry clay around the back and on the 2 sides, just to give it some texture and also to make the steps look like they were supposed to be steps. So they will go up to the front of the property. The property will fit on something like that. And it looks like I've got deliberate steps, albeit shallow ones. Now, one thing that I did want to do is I want to put a dead looking tree, which is why there's a little hole in the air drying clay to the one side. And I've actually made me a tree. Now this tree has been made out of some jewellery wire, which isn't jewellery wire. This was sold as craft wire, so it didn't actually come with a weight. You know, it was or gauge rather. So it's just what I use when I need some random wire. And I use the gold because it's not going to be visible anyway. Now I've made the tree by twisting pieces together, as you can see. What you probably can't see very well on the camera is that all of it has been covered in glue. And a lot of the twists and turns have been smoothed out a bit, so they're not going to be quite so obvious. I'm going to paint this next, and obviously I'm going to paint the base of this, and hopefully then it'll start looking a bit more spooky. Now I'm probably going to paint it black and then dry brush it in brown so that it looks like a dead tree. Now I think it's got to go that way to work with the house, and then that will be glued into place obviously once it's all painted. And I'm going to put some yes, I think what the word is, I'm going to put some textured flocking. That's the stuff I was looking for. I'm going to put some flocking on the bottom just to give it a bit more texture. I'm having problems with my words this morning. Now to go on this side, because obviously we're going to have tree over here, something like that. Over there I need something. So while I got the air dry clay out, I've made a couple of small tombstone. I don't know if I'm going to put any writing on them or if I'm just going to leave them, or I might just put RIP, something like that in. They're They're perhaps a bit small. I could have gone a bit larger with them, but I don't want them to be too obvious, and I don't want it to look like this is actually a human graveyard. Maybe it's a pet cemetery outside this little house, which could actually be a little dog house or something, couldn't it? But they sort of work, I think. Anyway, back to painting and then flocking and then putting together. I make it sound so easy, don't I? A lot of drying time. Hell of a lot of drying time. So it's finished. Now, I was going to film a bit more while I was sorting the landscaping, but I kind of got carried away, to be fair. What I did is I painted the bit which I've done the flocking on green, and I put some sand on the other bits that I've now painted grey. I've actually painted it over because I wanted it grey, and I haven't got any grey scatter. I've just got sand, which is a sandy colour, but it's given me a nice texture, a couple of coats of grey paint, and that's come out well. And what I did find is that was still a bit damp when I was putting the scatter on for the grass, and some bits have got caught into the paint, so it looks like there's vegetation escaping into the pathway. I painted my wire tree black, and I decided that it didn't need the dry brushing of brown, so I've just gone with it as it is, and I've just gone to clean that up, and it's a bit of the wire. I thought it was some black glue, and I haven't used hot glue, so why I thought that. I've made my little bit of bunting with some little tiny triangles of copier paper. Coloured over the copier paper, I drew a strip along the edge, and I did half of it in black and half of it in orange. And because the copier paper is not very thick, it is obviously soaked through. Yeah, that's the phrase I'm looking for. And then I cut the triangles out, and I've stuck them to some nylon thread, like fishing line basically, which I've then glued around the tree. And at either end you can actually see the little tiny little end bits hanging out, and it looks a bit like hot glue strings. The grass, the flocking for the grass, I gave a coat of Mod Podge afterwards. Normally you would, once it was dry, spray it with a mix of water and PVA, just to ensure that it was stuck down securely. But because it's such a small area, I got the Mod Podge out from doing the house the other day, I just put some Mod Podge over the top. It's a bit shinier than I would have liked, but I'm not looking for realism in this, so I don't care. Obviously, I stuck the tree into place. I had to put quite a bit of glue around the base to try and keep it in place, and I have actually secured it to the roof of the house just to make sure it's not going anywhere. And there's an helicopter going over, so do excuse if my microphone picks that up. I have glued the little gravestones in place after painting them. I've put RIP on one, and I've just put a cross on the other, and I think they look okay. They fill in that gap quite nicely. And then on the back, I've done my little bit of bunting there. Now, because I just wanted this to cover up the moulding, what I did is I started by just gluing one straight in the middle, and I glued the others out. They overlap a bit at that end, but it kind of looks like bunting gets when it's not quite sitting right. It does do stuff like that, so I don't care. I can live with that. But it disguises it, and not that anybody's really going to see it, but it just finishes it off in my mind. And I quite like that. It works on my doll's house front. I don't need to put anything on the bottom because the bottom is still nice and smooth, so it's not going to scratch anywhere that I put it. If you do something like this and you are worried, just put a bit of felt on the bottom. Stick it onto some felt. What I would say is put the glue onto the base, put it onto the felt, let it dry, and then trim off the felt sort of with your scissors at a bit of an angle so that you don't get any sticking out, and it'll work. That's what I've done with my plaster models, and I've done it with a couple of other things that I've made for household decoration. It just protects your surfaces, and if they're only small, it can use up some of those little bits of felt that you get left over from doing other projects. Or is that just me? So here we have it, my little haunted house. I quite like it. I can think of a few other things I might add. It might be nice to have a little crow of some description on the tree, but I haven't got one in the right scale, and I don't feel like trying to make one at the moment, but it's a thought. Maybe some little pumpkins. Same again, if I'd have thought about it, I could have made some little pumpkins when I had the air dry clay out. But I could always add those because I've got the space, and they wouldn't take much. It wouldn't take much to just glue them in place and add that finishing touch. So there we have it. From quite tacky blind box to quite awesome haunted house. And added bonus, I can use it as a doll's house decoration. Now, if you've enjoyed this video, and I hope you have, please like, comment and subscribe. All that helps my channel. Also, please ring the notification bell so that YouTube will tell you when I put up the next video. I'm trying to get back into the routine. I'm almost there. But at the moment, I'm not saying I'm going to be putting up videos on a particular day. I am just going to be putting up videos more and more often. And until next time, bye.